Hello and welcome to this Dawn Busters Taste Challenge. It's daylight outside already at 5:46 a.m. Central Daylight Time. And it's going to keep getting, it's going to become daylight earlier and earlier until, what, June 21st? And then it'll decrease. All right. Anyway, we have some Canadian whiskeys for a little while, getting away from the American blended whiskeys for a while, thank goodness. And we're looking at Albertsons blended Canadian whiskey with its purple, red, and gold label. Canadian whiskey, a blend, product of Canada, Maple Leaves on there, of course. County Line Distillers, Louisville, Kentucky. That's where it's bottled. 80 proof. Well, you know how many Canadian whiskeys are distilled in Canada, and they're bottled in the United States, including Canadian Club and Seagram's VO. I don't know about others. Well, I know a lot of the Sazerac ones are. Now, I'm going to talk about that in a moment. We've got Canadian Limited going up against it. Now, Albertsons grocery chain was founded in 1939. I don't know when their Canadian whiskey came out, but somebody told me it was decades ago. Might have been around the same time as Canadian Limited. Canadian whiskey with natural flavors. Now, this one doesn't say that. It doesn't say Canadian whiskey with natural flavors. So I'm curious to see if there's going to be a difference. I think there will be, maybe. I don't know. All right. Bottled by Fleischmann Distilling Company, Owensboro, Kentucky, 80 proof. Okay, well, you know, Fleischmann's is Sazerac. And Albertsons is Sazerac. How do I know? Well, I know that County Line Distillers of Louisville is Sazerac. And plus, if you look on the bottleneck, it says the Albertsons and Albertsons logo trademarks are owned by Super Value Incorporated or its subsidiaries and are under license. And then it says, we love to hear from our customers, 1-866-729-3722, info@bartonbrands.com. If you click on bartonbrands.com, it's going to route you to Sazerac.com website. There is no more Barton website since the 2009 buyout. You know what's really weird? If you get on Miller's website, Miller Coors website, and you click on Foster's Ale and Foster's Premium Lager, and it says website link or whatever it says link. If you click on the link for Foster's, it routes you to Anheuser-Busch from Molson Coors, Miller Coors website. I said, this is so bizarre. I know that now Foster's is owned by Anheuser-Busch InBev, but for some reason it's listed as a brand, also as a brand of Molson Coors, Miller Coors, and it's still brewed in Fort Worth, Texas now. Explain that. And then it says here, Sazerac.com, limited at Sazerac.com, and it gives the same phone number. So, I mean, and it's the same type bottle. Now, one interesting thing, wait a minute. Here's one interesting thing right here. There is a mountain, figuratively speaking, or maybe not so figuratively. There is a plethora of sediment in this bottle. Top to bottom, there is powdery, looks like fluffy sediment. And I saw this in the 10 High. And I believe one other Sazerac whiskey. What is all this gunk? You say, well, it's filtered. I don't know how carefully filtered Sazerac whiskeys are. I don't know if you could see this, but it has just like, it looks like it has dandruff or something. You know what I mean? It's like skin flakes. Cheers, Jay, says Kyle. Took the day off of work being it's my birthday. Oh, happy birthday to you. I've had Albertsons, but I've never seen or heard of the Canadian Limited. Actually, Canadian Limited is one of the top selling Canadian whiskeys in the United States. So it's like number 5 or 7, one of those numbers these days. So you should be able to find it at any liquor store, and for cheap, because it was $7.42 at Walmart. So why is there this sediment? I don't know. Another thing, a code issue. Where are Sazerac whiskeys distilled for their Canadian brands? I don't know, but I think here's a clue, a very good clue. There's a code here, production code. You get two codes. There's one in the background, but I think that's, don't know what that is. I can't read it. It's too light. It's white on clear. 16012, I don't know. But here's the black on clear glass. G16098. So the 98th day of 2016 at G. What is this? 22 hours and 31 minutes F. That's the bottling line. Is G a Canadian distillery? Is that a code for a Canadian distillery? If you look at cases of whiskey when they're coming into into a store, you know those big cardboard boxes. Look at it carefully next time, and it'll say DSP K whatever. Distilled spirits plant. I figured that out. Just thought about it. DSP, distilled spirits plant K, and then it gives you a number, and there's a list you can get on the internet of what that number corresponds to. Now, there is sediment here. Not as much of the suspended sediment, but oh by golly, it's here. Maybe if I have time, I'll go get a bottle of Jack Daniels out the cabinet and see if that does that same little trick. Now here's a code 4290 space 621655. I don't know what in the world that's talking about. And over here we have the G 15246. So 2015 246 day 02. That's the second hour, right? 2 in the morning, 11 minutes at E. What is this? Line E, bottling line E. I don't know. What is G? G might simply just be Glenmore, which is a plant that Sazerac purchased. But that's in Owensboro, Kentucky. Neither one of these bottles. This one's saying Owensboro, right? Fleischmann's. But this one is saying Louisville. I don't know. If y'all can figure it out, I'd love to find out what plant in Canada makes this whiskey for Sazerac. What distillery? Now, Sazerac doesn't talk about it. They don't want to discuss it. Canada Dry Hand. So I'm Canadian. I've never seen those brands. Yeah, because so many Canadian whiskeys are distilled in Canada, but they're only sold in the United States. Just like all these German beers that are made in Germany and only sold in America. St. Pauli Girl. Spaten Optimator. Germans can't get it. We get it. Like a great beer from Germany, they can't get it. Okay, so let's go with the Albertsons first. You say, how much did you pay for the Albertsons? I bought this in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. I think this was the store on US Highway 61, southbound at the corner of Louisiana Highway 42. In other words, Airline Highway at Highland Road. Those are those are actually not the official names of the roads. Those are the nicknames because the official name of the road is the number. Anyway, you say, but I'm watching this from Indiana. Why would I drive to Baton Rouge to get it? I understand that, but some people do live around here that watch, and so they could go find it. It was $4.99. $4.99. Now, I figured, well, even if it's bad, I haven't lost much. I'll buy it. It might be terrible, but what's the difference? I mean, I could buy a sandwich at Burger King for that, but actually it turned out it wasn't bad at all. It was quite good. Limited. This was introduced in 1972. It wasn't Sazerac back then. It was somebody else. Fleischmann's. Okay. We get some Fleischmann's products here, like that. And if you get on the Sazerac website, you click on Fleischmann's, there's like a little history of the company, and then and it talks about how Sazerac bought them and all of this. So it's kind of interesting. We get Fleischmann's gin here, Fleischmann's vodka. We may get some Fleischmann's liqueurs, but we do not, to my knowledge, get Fleischmann's whiskey, you know, like their blended whiskey or their bourbon. We don't get it. Now, the appearance, well, I already talked about the appearance. Well, I didn't talk about the color, but they both had that sediment, so that's a little weird. They're amber gold, gold amber, amber gold. They're like halfway gold, halfway amber, okay? Well, I can smell them already, the fumes from the glasses. We did a hangout on, what was it, Monday night about Canadian Limited. It went on for about an hour. In the second half hour, things got a little ragged because I say, well, I had been drinking the liquor, and then I had been up since 2:45 in the morning, so you have a combination of being tired, but you think, oh, I'm okay, I'm not really sleepy, but you are, you don't realize it. And the alcohol. So I was trying to make points about, well, you could buy this kind of food and it's this way, and or I have a fascination for these little off weird brands, which is true, because even though, I mean, they're just odd, so I'm attracted to them for some weird reason. Just like I might want to watch King Kong Escapes. You say, well, that's not a quality film. I know, but it's something peculiar about it. So, and then the whiskey scout said, we're getting far from the topic. I was like, I know, I'm trying to, the shift went, the ship was adrift, you know, but anyway, so it's hard to not do that at those nighttime hangouts. And also, you don't want to be too straight-laced, because then it's just like robotic, you know, like we're going to look at this brand and this does this and this does that and this looks like this and this looks like that. Although some people would prefer that. Stick to the topic and go through the points, the tasting notes in a very precise manner. I do tend to prefer that anyway myself, but you can understand that people will sometimes like things a little looser, you see. Okay, now going on with this taste challenge. If you're used to blended whiskeys like Seagram's Seven Crown or Old Camp, I can see that that's becoming popular. Old Camp, and then they got the peach. I think the peach flavored is the biggest one, but there's an Old Camp with no flavoring, just Old Camp, and that seems to be catching on. I see it more and more. And but if you're used to drinking that kind of stuff, this is going to throw you. You'll say, "What is this stuff?" I've never seen anything official. Someone said they add plum wine as a flavorant to Canadian whiskey. I can't say that definitively because I have not seen anything definitive, although it seems plausible, because you pick up those kind of notes in the background. In the front, in the foreground, there's grain, pleasant grain, like nice quality grain, you know, corn, obviously, from the interior plains of Canada or the Great Plains of the U.S. And then there's some barley and rye. Okay. I know that blending sherry is added to American whiskey, or at least it's allowed up to 2% of the volume, because it says that on the Tax and Trade Bureau, the United States Tax and Trade Bureau. So they can add blending sherry and they don't have to disclose it. It's not required to be disclosed as a flavoring added, even though it's a natural flavor. They don't have to disclose it. Now, if they want to go above 2%, then they would have to say on the label with natural flavors added. For the U.S. whiskey, Canadian, I think that's an option. They can say they add flavor, or they don't have to say. Same thing with brandy. Many brandies are colored with caramel color, and they're flavored, but they don't have to say it. It's optional. They're not as strict with brandy. Okay. Same thing, but this one's a little more punchy, a little punchier, like you get a little more spice in the nose. Seems like it must have higher rye. Now, you know, if you've watched enough of these videos or done enough of your own tastings, Sazerac brands, Buffalo Trace, Sazerac, Buffalo Trace, they tend to have a high rye mash bill. They tend to be relatively higher in the rye than other companies, I've noticed, which may or may not appeal to people. It depends on if you like that rye spice or not. If you like the high rye spice, Sazerac might be your thing. Okay, so they're both pleasant. Now, I think this smells like the Canadian, Albertsons Canadian, because I remember it having that. I don't know what you call that. It has that thing that I remember from it. I don't know what that smell is, because I don't think I ever smelled it before until I had the Albertsons Canadian. So like you can't verbalize it to make people understand. It's almost like I don't know, is it a nut oil? It's like a fruit component. Passion fruits. I don't know what it is, but it's not typical. If you're thinking about Jack Daniels, get that thought out your head, because that is so far removed from what we're looking at today. It's like two different. A Jack Daniels drinker would say that's not whiskey. I know whiskey. I drink whiskey. Senator, you're no whiskey. You say no. It's just a different type, and it's a different world. It's almost like DC and Marvel. They're both comic books, but they're not too similar. This one is more grain. The sweet grain. Where the American blended whiskey said that stark grain. It's like, it's a sharp corn. It's like a razor blade hitting your nose. You know, these are like, they're more fluffy aroma. I don't know how that makes sense, but that's what I'm experiencing, you see. Yeah, and this has that, it's got to be like cream sherry. You say cream sherry is so insane, so stupid. No, I think it could be what they're using. I don't know, it's bizarre, but you know, Sazerac has a portfolio of liqueurs that will boggle your mind. Boggle your mind. I mean, they've got a lot of blended whiskeys, a lot of Canadian blended whiskeys, a lot of Scotch and Irish whiskeys, a lot of rum, a lot of vodka, a lot of gin, okay, a lot of bourbon. I mean, that could keep you busy all day. But then you get on liqueurs and you say, well, they got 38 different types of liqueurs. Well, it's more than that, because if you click on each one, then there's 12 varieties of this. And then, bourbon cream, and then there's 6 varieties of that, and then this orange flavor one, you know, that one you see with the orange, then there's 7 varieties of that. So just, there's no store could carry all this stuff. And then you get on there, like you get on vodka, Taka vodka. Well, there's 2 varieties of Taka vodka. There's the vodka, and then there's the bonded. It's 100 proof. Or is it 101? 100 proof. It's a red label. Oh, I never bought that. I bet that would just knock you out. Tasting. I'm ready for my nose. If you have respiratory problems, do not, I repeat, even visit Louisiana, because it's probably going to really bother you. You can't live here. It's hard for me. Most people I know here have sinus problems, endless, chronic, because of the humidity in the air and the mold, and it just doesn't stop. It's not like you're sick with a cold. It's just there's not clean air, if you know what I mean. It's naturally polluted, I guess, but it's also worse because you got refineries everywhere. So I don't think the air's too clean. Okay. But I don't think it was too clean in 1718. Just didn't have the refineries. Okay. It's standard bread, grain, alcohol thing. But then you get these background flavors of like rye, spice, and something else. Kind of reminds me of Canadian Club. You know, Canadian Club, drink on that. You're going to notice they got some kind of flavoring in it. Also, I don't know what it is. They'll never tell you. You can get on Beam Suntory website and you could ask them. They're not going to tell you. They'll give you some kind of like evasive answer. I didn't say they would lie. They wouldn't lie. They're just going to tell you something that's going to be non-specific. This one here, it's very similar to, they got to be coming from the same distillery. It's just got to be such a similar recipe. I don't think it's the same though. I don't think it's the same. You get grain, grain, grain. And then there's that stronger back note of rye. Some people might think this is a rye whiskey. I mean, I'm not kidding. They might drink and say, oh, I like rye whiskey. I had such and such. I had Jack Daniel's rye or something. This is actually not touted as a rye whiskey, although Sazerac has those. This is just it's something else. And then there's that flavor in that. Maybe it's not cream sherry. Maybe it's dry sherry, you know, but I don't know. It's got to be. I don't know about the plum wine. It's, a viewer might say, you seem perplexed. You're mixed up. Well, yeah, of course I'm perplexed and mixed up. I told you right off the bat I was having trouble with these. I mean, for $4.99 and for $7.42 a bottle, I think they're a great value. They taste good and they're really interesting. They're like little adventures. Like every time you pour a glass, a few ounces in a glass and you sip on it, it's like a little adventure. And that's what's fun about these whiskey tastings, because they're like, you say, well, you do 4 of those a week sometimes. I know. So it's like I have 4 little adventures. That might seem childish, but I have somewhat like a childlike personality. If you have thousands of comic books and, you know, all these pictures of football games on the wall, you can't get up there and talk, I'm not childlike. Well, you kind of are, because you're sort of like caught up in that. But I'm like Colonel Walter Kurtz. I'll be the first to admit it, you know. Okay. Medium body. Long, medium finish. Like it's not a long finish, but it's medium long. Long, medium. It's one hanging around away from long. One hanging around away from long. You know what I mean? Same here, but this, golly, this flavor is so different. Ugh. It is so strange, and it's not bad. I can't get up here and talk about it's bad. No, it's odd. Now you do get some of that American blended whiskey razor sharpness on the taste a little bit. So there's some crossover. There is crossover because they're both using corn predominantly as their base and all of that, and they're aged in used barrels, I'm sure. So you get that toothpick type wood. You're not going to get charred wood, but like you would with bourbon. On the other hand, you don't have that strong cornbread, yellow corn grits polenta taste that you get with bourbon. I don't like that. Although I did enjoy the 10 high last night that I was sipping on, admittedly, but I have to say that I will be glad when I phase out the bourbon. I've got bottles and bottles left, but I haven't bought any new ones, and I'm just drinking them down. Well, you know, it could take a year, but drinking them down and waving bye-bye. There are so many Scotch and Canadian whiskey brands I'd like to explore more because I enjoy them more, so why wouldn't I try them more, right? Like, Crown Royal, I mean, enough's enough. Every time you turn around and put on a sock, there's a new Crown Royal variant. So I think it's bad to not, you say, well, that's going to cost a little bit of money. Crown Royal's kind of overpriced. I know it's like Budweiser or Jack Daniels, stuff like that. You're buying a name more than the product in some ways, but you want to pay, you want to play, you got to pay. I mean, no. You can't drive a Taurus and pay Focus prices. Pretty soon that won't even matter because they're not going to make any more cars except for the Mustang. I think this has gotta be Albertsons. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but I just can't see that I'm wrong. It's got to be Albertsons. It's got that unusual thing going on. I think it's better than the dang Canadian Limited. And it's $2.43 cheaper. Oh, well. Of course, you can't get it everywhere like Limited. Okay, let's go. Here we go. I'm scared. I'm not really scared because this doesn't really matter. But anyway, okay. Albertsons, I did it. 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 Now, you see, I got really despondent when I was doing the taste challenges with McCormick and then doing the taste challenges with Kentucky Gold. And you say, well, because you're a bad taste challenger. You don't know what you're doing. Okay, but my counter argument would be no. Those things are so typical. What I mean is Kentucky Gold and McCormick is so much like everything else. They're so standardized in their flavor. How are you going to tell them apart? I mean, American blended whiskey on its own merits is just standardized. It's just like brrr, the same old thing. And it's a very difficult thing to tell them apart. So I don't feel bad about that. Yes, the Seagram 7 Crown is better than the rest, but it's going to cost you $5 more a bottle than the rest. That makes sense. It's $5 a bottle better than the rest. Okay, well, maybe it's $4 a bottle better than Beam's 8-star because that one's pretty strong. And Kessler's is pretty good too, but I didn't have enough to really go to great lengths of getting a handle on it. I only had a 200 milliliter bottle of Kessler's. So, okay, if we're talking about American blended whiskey, I guess we could say Seagram 7 Crown is obviously the best. I mean, it's just obviously the best. There's no real argument there. You say, well, I know I haven't tried Old Camp and I haven't tried Bird Dog, so you know they might be very good, but from the ones I've tried, I think 7 Crown is obviously the best. And then you've right below that you've got the Kessler, and then below that the Beam's 8-star. So those are the 3 good ones, let's say. And then you've got 1,000, and I'm not really exaggerating there. You probably have 1,000 other run-of-the-mill blended whiskeys that are not bad, but they're indistinguishable. You know, for all practical purposes, they're indistinguishable. So what is the lesson there? Shop price. These are not the same. The Albertsons is clearly different than the Canadian Limited. So that, if you're going by the argument that it's the same whiskey in different bottle labels, that cannot hold up. You said, what about Canadian Club? It's different too. What about VO? It is different, but it's dull. That's its calling card. It's just dull. They tell you that on the website. Their own website's telling you, well, this is kind of dull, but you might want to do mixed drinks with it. I mean, they're telling you this. So if a company's telling me their product's dull, I believe it. Okay, Canadian Leaf, that's gone because it was so little of it. Well, I have a lot of taste challenges I'm going to do with these. It's been 30 minutes, so this is enough. So next time, we're going to take Canadian Limited, and let's put it up against, let me look in the cabinet and see what other Sazerac Canadians I have, if any. And then once I get past that, then we'll bring in, let's bring in the Brown-Forman brand, the Canadian Club 6-year. I got a 6-year age. Yeah, they're still lingering around. The current one is 5 years, but I got a 6-year age. And then we can go up against the VO. Then the VO Gold, and that's going to be a challenge. I think VO Gold is going to, you know, wipe it out. No longer produced. VO Gold no longer produced. But you still might find bottles of it for the next 10 years because it is aged 8 years. So what if they put it in the barrel last year? Well, you know, they're going to age it. So, but that's being phased out. Let's say phased out. Oh, and last thing I heard, and I know this, I didn't hear this on the street. I heard this from a store manager. He said the 120 is starting to sell. The Dogfish Head 120 is starting to move. They were a little worried at first because it got on there on the shelves, and a few people ran in there and bought it, and then it just lingered, just stuck. But they haven't gone down in their price. They're still selling it for $10.99 a bottle, and it's starting to move. So he's very confident. He told me, I'm very confident that it's going to all sell out. KBS, he said, no, that's a different story. It's not selling. Oh, maybe 1 or 2 bottles a week. He said it's a bizarre thing because he was told the warehouse has cases and cases and cases of KBS, and it ain't being bought. You know what I mean? The distributor is trying to sell it, and the stores don't want it because they can't sell what they've got. Can you imagine that? Imagine 5 years ago, they would have sold out of KBS in 2 hours across the whole state of Louisiana. We didn't even get it 1 year. I think like 2015, we couldn't get it. Now they can't get rid of it. It's funny, huh? How that works. It's like it's they've had their day. They have had their day. I mean, it's amazing that I can remember 5 years ago, the excitement level, people would just go buck wild over KBS, and they would just be trading it and desperate. They'd get on Facebook desperate. I want to trade. I want to trade. And then they were buying it and reshopping it, you know, selling it, trading it up. Now, oh, come on. You get cases of KBS down, it's got a resale value of a 1988 Plymouth Horizon or something. You see, I mean, you got nothing. Okay. All right. Thanks for watching this video production. We'll see what comes up next, but it will be Canadians for sure.